We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called The Little Match Girl. It's cold, everyone gathers around the fireplace to celebrate Christmas, and the children wait for Santa Claus to deliver gifts. As for the little girl, she had to drag her bare feet through every small street selling small boxes of matches. The girl's old, worn-out sandals were thrown away by mischievous children this morning. As it got late, the weather became colder, her feet seemed to turn purple. On the street some people were still rushing home, no one seemed to pay attention to her even though her eyes were still up. Looking at them with innocent eyes, half pleading, half shy. I don't understand why, the little girl only sold a box of matches for a penny like she usually does, but today absolutely no one asked. Are they indifferent or because they are too hasty? The more it gets late at night, the more snow falls, everywhere is covered with white snow. The little match seller is now exhausted, her feet are now numb, without any feeling. Now, she only wishes for one very small thing, which is to return home and curl up on an old bed in a small corner to sleep until morning to forget the hunger and cold. But when she thought of her father's scolding and harsh whips, she shivered with fear and quickly walked down the street. After walking for a while, the girl stopped to look at the warmth of the houses on both sides of the road. Every house had a Christmas tree, children hung stockings to receive gifts, electric lights flickered in some places. The place is fragrant with hot cakes fresh from the oven. Some families even set out a table of turkey, delicious wine, and delicious-looking fruit cakes. Suddenly the girl swallowed her saliva, her eyes became dizzy, her limbs trembled, she felt hungry and colder than ever. The little girl's hands tightened her hold on her body, trying to retain a little bit of warmth. She dragged her cold feet as she walked with the bustling Christmas music everywhere, the stream of people still calmly passing back and forth happily. The day the Lord was born. For a whole day I couldn't sell anything, and no one gave me any alms. The poor, hungry girl still has to wander the streets in the cold weather to sell each box of matches. Snowflakes clung to the long hair on my back, I didn't pay attention and I no longer felt it. Every house and window were brightly lit, and all over the street the fragrant smell of roast goose emanated. On Christmas Eve, every family happily eats and drinks lavishly. Seeing that, I remembered the past, when my gentle and beloved grandmother was still alive. She and I happily celebrated Christmas at home, with roast goose, fragrant cakes, and sweet fruits. But unfortunately, death took her away from me, my father's assets were all destroyed and I had to leave the beautiful and warm house where ivy wrapped around me and then go to a dark and shabby corner. Humidity. Every day, I endured my father's beatings and harsh curses and scolding. The little girl sat nestled in a corner between two houses. She curled her legs up and hugged her tightly to protect herself from the cold, but each time she felt colder and colder. I really want to go home, but I can't go home without selling any matches or without anyone giving me a dime. If I return like that, I will definitely be beaten by my father with marks on my back. Besides, even if I came back, it would be just as cold. My father and I were upstairs. Even though we used pieces of rag to stuff them into the gaps in the wall, the cold wind still blew into the house incessantly. By this time, my hands were numb. Rub. If only I could light a match to warm up, if only I could light a match to warm my cold hands. Finally, I dared to swipe a stick. Matches are very sensitive to fire, and the flame burns at times. The tip is blue, gradually fading to white, glowing pink around the wooden stick, shining brightly and pleasing to the eye. I put my hands above the burning match. Rub. How wonderful is its warmth. I felt like I was sitting in front of a cozy fireplace. In the furnace, the firewood sticks were burning happily, radiating gentle warmth. How pleasant. When it's cold, snow covers everywhere, and the wind whistles, it's so nice to sit and warm up for hours by the fireplace. I stretched out my legs to warm up, but the fire went out and the fireplace disappeared. I realized that I was still sitting in the cold winter sky with a completely extinguished match in my hand. I was startled because I remembered that my father had given me the task of selling matches, if I returned home tonight. White, I will definitely be beaten by my father. I boldly struck the second match, the match lit up again, the two walls next to me seemed to turn into a curtain made of fabric, I could see right through to the inside of the house. The dining table was fully prepared. On the table was a fragrant roast goose, beautiful porcelain dishes, a pure white tablecloth, baskets full of fruit, and a loaf of hot bread. Fresh out of the oven. But what's strange is that the goose jumped out of the plate, carrying a knife, and launched the snake stuck on its back towards me. Suddenly the second match went out, the cold walls around me returned, the cold snow still fell outside. Reality has replaced dreams, there is no fireplace, no dining table, no roast goose, and even less cake. Everything is just an illusion, the surrounding is still a cold, deserted street covered with snow, the cold north wind is constantly blowing, Groups of people are still rushing back home or to cozy meeting places. Everyone still didn't pay attention to the little match seller, it seemed like she was invisible to them. I pulled out the third match and lit it, the fire burned brightly again. Suddenly in front of my eyes was a very large Christmas tree. The tree was surrounded by gorgeous decorations, the twinkling lights flashing around were very cheerful. Thousands of bright candles sparkled on the fresh green branches. She reached out with her small arm towards the tree, but the match went out. All the flashing lights and candles shot up into the sky and turned into stars in the sky. Someone must have just died, the match girl told herself. Because in the past, when my grandmother was still alive, she often told me, when another star appears in the sky, there is also a soul flying up to heaven. I struck another match, the light from the fire radiated all around. I clearly saw my grandmother smiling at me. "Grandma!" The little girl shouted happily. She let me follow her. I know that when the match goes out, she also disappears, disappearing like the fireplace, the roast goose, or the pine tree just now. But I beg you, don't leave me alone here. In the past, you and your grandmother lived so happily. She also told you that if you were obedient, you would see her again. Grandma, I want to follow you. Please ask God, I believe He will not refuse my request. The match burned down, the flame also went out, the illusion of her grandmother in the dim light of the match disappeared before the girl's eyes. I tried to light all the remaining matches in the bag, I wanted to hold my grandmother back. Matches one after another emitted bright, warm light like day. I have never seen an image of my grandmother so big and beautiful. My grandmother took my hand, and together we flew high into the sky, higher and higher, where there was no more beatings, no more hunger or cold. They flew to heaven and returned to God. The next morning, snow still covered everywhere, the first rays of sunlight appeared in the blue sky. Everyone happily walked out of the house. On that cold morning, people saw in a small corner a little match girl with rosy cheeks and a happy smile on her lips. I died of hunger and cold on Christmas Eve. I sat among the matchboxes, one of which was completely burned. Everyone said to each other, maybe she wants to warm up. But one thing is for sure, no one can know the miracles that the little girl saw when the matches lit up, especially the scene of the two of them flying high into the sky to welcome the joys of the new year new. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called Christmas Fairy. There is a fatherless girl who lives with her mother in a remote countryside. The family was very poor, mother and child had to work hard all day to earn enough to eat. She has no friends, no toys, but she never feels sad or lonely. Near her house is a forest, always filled with birdsong and colorful flowers. That winter, her mother was sick and unable to work, so she was busy all day knitting wool to then bring to the market to sell woolen socks, even though her bare feet were always pale from the cold. Near Christmas, the little girl said to her mother, I don't know if Santa Claus will bring me gifts this year, but I still put the shoes in the fireplace. Surely Santa won't forget me, right Mom? The mother lovingly comforted, don't think about that on Christmas Day this year, daughter. We just pray that we have enough food to get through this harsh winter. But she didn't believe that Santa could forget her. On the evening before Christmas, she put her shoes in the fireplace and went to sleep dreaming of Santa Claus. The mother looked at her child's shoes and felt sad thinking about her daughter's disappointment if the next morning she did not see a gift in them. This year, she couldn't even afford a small Christmas gift for her children. The next morning, the girl woke up early and ran to where she put her shoes. Just like her dream, last night Santa Claus came and brought her a gift. It was a small bird lying asleep in the shoe, probably because of hunger and cold. It looked at the girl with sparkling eyes and cried out happily when she gently stroked its soft fur. The little girl danced for joy and hugged the little bird tightly to her chest. She ran to the bed where her mother was lying and shouted, Look at me, Mother. Santa did not forget you and brought you this meaningful gift. In the following days, the girl took care of the bird, warmed it and fed it. The bird chirped next to the girl and perched on her shoulder while she worked. When spring came, the girl opened the cage to let the bird fly into the forest, but it refused to fly far, just hanging around near her house, and every morning, she woke up to the sound of chirping outside the window. The mother looked at her child with boundless happiness. Because she didn't want to disappoint her child, she went into the forest that night hoping to find something to give her child as a gift from Santa, and met this bird that was about to die of cold and hunger. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called Gift for Mother. I hurried into the store to urgently buy some last-minute Christmas gifts for my daughter. Looking at the crowd in horror, I would probably be stuck in the shop forever, while the work that needed to be done was still piling up, and the office still had many unfinished documents to review. From time to time, Christmas has become a heavy burden. I don't understand why there has to be such a troublesome holiday with so many things to worry about and gifts to buy for this person and that person. I hope I can just roll over and sleep through the Christmas season like a calm bear. Sleep peacefully all winter. I tried to squeeze through the crowd of people moving like ants to get into the toy shop and wondered if the girl wanted to play with toys like that. I browsed through several rows of toy stores, and randomly chose a cute-looking doll, and quickly ran to the checkout line. By chance, I saw a little boy standing nearby, fondling a pair of cute, lovely red shoes. The little boy held the twins in his arms, his face shining. I looked at the boy and was a bit surprised. The 7-year-old boy looked at his bright eyes as if he was looking at a favorite toy. Meanwhile, the boy said to the cashier, "Are you sure I'm short of money? I calculated it and it's enough money." The girl replied as if she couldn't bear it anymore. "I know I don't have enough money, but I still ask so many questions, it's so messy. You stand aside while I pay for someone else. When I find enough money, come and pay." I looked at the boy with his sad face and stood looking at his shoes. Observing for a moment, I asked, "You bought a pair of shoes for your sister?" "No, I bought it for my mom. My mom is very sick, and Dad said she's going to see Jesus. My mother has liked these shoes for a long time. I want to buy them for her, so she can take them to see Jesus. Mom will be very beautiful and very happy." Hearing this, I realized that the boy's mother was dying, but the boy was too young to understand the story of death. And a pain filled my soul. The boy continued, "I told Dad to tell Mom not to leave right away and told her to wait for me to come home from the market. I'm still a few dollars short of buying a pair of shoes. All the money I've been saving for a long time is still not enough. Can you help me? Tomorrow I will go back to work and pay you back." "Uncle," look at the sad little boy bowing his head in silence. I reached into my pocket to get money and gave it to the boy. "Here, take it, pay for it and go home to Mom. These shoes are very beautiful." The boy's face suddenly brightened and said, "Yes, thank you very much. God will bless your kindness. Your mother will be very happy to take these shoes to meet Jesus." I walked out of the store, and on the drive home I still saw the poor boy's innocent face. The little boy's love for his mother is so strong. Like an angel sent by God, the boy reminded me the meaning of Christmas, the season of love and giving. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called Special Gift from Brother. As usual, every Christmas season, I receive gifts from my brother. That Christmas, I felt the happiest not only because of the gift my brother gave me, a car, but because I learned a very interesting lesson on that cold winter night. It's 7 p.m., almost everyone in the company has left. I'm also going to the garage to get my car and go home for Christmas. There was a boy, dressed in rags, looking like a street child, walking around my car. His face seemed to be very interested in the car. Then he suddenly spoke up when he saw me approaching. "Is this your car?" I nodded slightly. "That's the Christmas gift your brother gave me." The boy looked at me in shock when I finished speaking. "You mean your brother gave you this car without you having to pay anything?" "Oh. I wish." He still hesitated. Of course I knew what the boy wanted to say next. He wanted to have an older brother like that. I looked intently at the boy, showing that I was ready to listen to his words. But he still lowered his head to the ground, his feet moving unconsciously on the ground. "I wish," the boy continued, "I could become a brother like that." I looked at the boy, surprised by what he just said. Suddenly I asked the boy, "What do you think if we go around the city in this car?" As if afraid that I would change my mind, the boy quickly replied, "I like it very much." After the trip, the boy asked me with bright eyes full of hope, "Can you drive to my house?" I smiled and nodded. I think I know what he wants. He wanted to show the neighbors how big a car he came home with. But I was wrong. "You just need to stop here, and do you mind if I ask you to wait for me for a moment?" Having said that, the boy quickly ran into the deep, dark alley, as if no one could live in it. A few minutes later I heard the boy come back through the sound of footsteps, but it seemed like this time he didn't run like before but walked very slowly. And following him was a small girl, who I thought was his sister, the girl with the bad feet. The boy pushed the wheelchair his brother was sitting in, an old one, down the steps very carefully, and stopped next to my car. "Here she is, the one I told you about earlier. Her brother gave her a car for Christmas without spending a dime on her. And one day he will give it to her too. You have a gift like that. Just think, you can see the gifts with your own eyes, the street scenes on Christmas Eve, and I won't have to try to describe it to you anymore." I couldn't hold back my tears, and I got out of the car and put that poor girl in the car. The girl's eyes looked at me full of admiration and friendliness. The three of us started another trip around the city, a meaningful trip that I will never forget, when the cold snowflakes of Christmas Eve began. God will bless you.